Tell me again about the book hauls, Adrian.
Sure. Lots of books no one's ever read, no one ever heard of. We'll never read them. So many books, lots of books.
And I'll get to do the book hauls, right?
Yeah, sure, all of them. Yeah. All the ones you want.
We'll be famous booktubers.
Famous, real famous. Lots of likes and subs and retweets and comments. Your phone will never stop going off. And they'll all want to sleep with us.
They'll want to sleep with us?
No, probably not.
Oh, well. And we'll have rabbits.
Dalton, why the hell would we have rabbits?
You said we'd have rabbits.
Yeah, that's cool, whatever, that's fine. Rabbits. Hey, Dalton.
Yeah?
Did you smoke my cigar?
No. I mean, I'd never do something like that. That's just, put it down.
Welcome to Short Cover Lit. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we're here with you for this week's book review. Dalton, what did we read this time?
This week, we read a classic. This is Of Mice and Men, John Steinbeck.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
And you are the man who didn't know how this book ended.
I didn't. But let's get right into things. We'll get into that later.
All right.
Three good things.
Three good things. The ending. This is a beautiful ending.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's nothing more I can say about that.
Okay.
There's a real emotional appeal for a lot of different characters in this. You really attach yourself to a lot of characters. I will talk about that later because I had an attachment to one who didn't matter. And I think this is a perfect painted picture of this era.
Okay.
This is not something you get very often, but it's perfectly believable and you feel like you're there.
Okay. My three good things. This is a good example of action over movement.
Okay.
This is on the highest level of literature with a capital L.
Okay.
Everything here is so real.
Yes.
But there's not much definition going on.
Okay. Bad things. This book can be repetitive. Constantly repetitive. That wears on the reader a little bit. The ending, although I am completely in love with, I think leaves the reader wanting more. And I think that's a good thing, but it's also difficult to put this book down and be done with it.
Okay. And
dialect. Good, necessary, sometimes difficult to continue to read.
Okay.
You got to go back, you got to rethink everything. It's very heavy in that southern era of speaking.
Okay.
That makes sense.
A lot of people go to literature as a form of entertainment. Mm-hmm. It's hard to sell a form of entertainment that is just you getting kicked in the testicles. Two, this leaves a lot to be said for women. A third-person narrator leaves room for a marginalized character to claim their stake, and you can see that this novel is able to do that with the character of Crooks. And my third bad thing, it's almost too perfect.
You think so?
I think so. I think it's almost too perfect.
You have to find something wrong with it.
Yeah.
So I do have a quote.
Okay.
It's not a prolific quote because it's written in that comfortable language we spoke of before. So I don't think there's a lot of just heavy, pull this quote and put it on your fridge.
Okay.
You might disagree with me. This one stuck with me, and this is a perfect example of the dialect and the emotional appeal. I ought to have shot that dog myself, George. I shouldn't ought to have let no stranger shoot my dog.
That's such a powerful piece, though.
Look at that. That sets up everything.
It sure does.
Perfectly. You have that dialect I was talking about. You have the emotional appeal. I feel worse for this dog than I do anyone else.
Okay.
And maybe that stuck with me as a dog owner. But it's just that it's that old school of thinking because when... what's the guy's name who had the dog? Why did I blank on that? Slim.
Slim, yeah. No. Not Slim.
No, Candy had the dog, but Slim had the puppies.
Okay, yeah.
He's like, well, I drowned 3 of them. I'm like, what? Why would you do that?
Which I will get into later.
Okay. Anyway, your quote.
George, you asleep? Nah, what do you want? Let's have a different color rabbits, George. Sure we will, George said sleepily. Red and blue and green rabbits, Lennie, millions of them. Furry ones, George. Like I seen in the fair in Sacramento. Sure, furry ones. 'Cause I can just as well go away, George, and live in the cave. "Oh, you can just as well go to hell," said George. "Shut up now." I think that is a perfect blend of the sadness, the hope, and you slide in some comedy.
Okay.
Right? On page 56, George sighed. "You give me a good whorehouse every time," he said. "A guy can go in and get drunk and get everything out of his system all at once, and no messes. And he knows how much it's going to set him back. These here jail baits is just set on the trigger of the hoosegow." And I think that says so much about what's going on in the piece.
I feel so bad because when I read that, I'm like, Adrian, turn the page. It's like you stuck with me on that one.
Screw you.
Anyway,
Okay.
this book is wonderful. And there is such an emotional appeal because it is a sad story. And there's so much sadness with it. However, I think that was part of this time.
Okay, but I would go a little bit of a different direction.
Okay.
You say sadness. I think you're close but off the mark. I think the truth. I think what would you say this novel is about? Not about, but about in the capital L sense.
I mean, I really think, honestly, given this piece, this is just straight realism. This is life.
Right, but what's it about? What is the undercurrent to this piece?
What are you getting at? What are you going for?
Loneliness.
Okay.
The undercurrent is loneliness. Think about what's driving everyone in here.
The farmhand is always lonely. He always works alone.
The man is always lonely. The woman is always lonely. People are always lonely. Right? Mm-hmm. Who in the, George and Lenny need each other. Slim is a leader, and what are leaders without followers? And there's also that bit where Slim is talking about always crafting a better team.
Yep.
He's always concerned with who's around him. Curly is obviously overcompensating for the fact that he is lonely. Carlson desperately wants attention. Desperately wants Curly's attention. Crooks has an expulsive type of loneliness, right?
Okay.
And get away. No, come back.
Yep.
Well, but I'm not coming with you. Remember that thing I said about coming to that farm with you? Forget it. Right? Candy, where am I at here? I'm sorry. Candy relied on his dog and until it was taken from him, and Curly's wife is so obviously longing for attention.
Absolutely. That's the point of the novel.
Yeah. Everyone in here is lonely. There is a pervasive sense of loneliness.
Okay. So you have your two characters who are not lonely. You have George and Lenny. They have each other. And that seems to be a different than anything else in the novel. Everybody comments that was unusual to see two people working together like this. What's your shtick? What are you getting at?
Right.
However, in the end, it all comes back to loneliness.
It does. But you mentioned something incredibly interesting there.
Okay.
You said Lenny and George have each other. What else do they have? Their first names. Who else has a first name in the novel?
They all go by nicknames.
They'll go by nicknames. Carlson's a last name, probably.
Yep.
In fact, Curly's wife simply goes by Curly's wife.
Yes.
Crooks simply goes by Crooks. Slim goes by Slim.
Okay. He disassociates you with that character, so you do invest more in George and Lenny, I think. And I don't know, maybe that's the author trying to get you to have that emotional appeal with those characters. But the beauty of this novel, in the end, to me, is the fact that George is the one who shoots Lenny.
Oh,
He
of course.
puts the dog down so the dog doesn't suffer.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. And I think if you were to write this now, people would throw a fit about it.
Oh, well, people still throw fits about it.
Oh, this is a highly banned book, again, because,
Right.
Literature's a bad thing.
Exactly.
But, wow. Especially for that timepiece. Wow.
And I want to talk about something else very quickly.
Okay.
You mentioned Slim drowning the puppies, right?
Yes.
Now, I think it's very important to notice that how did Slim do it?
I don't recall.
He just drowned them.
Yeah.
Because it had to be done.
Yes, because the mother couldn't feed them all.
That's one of the tropes of masculinity. The man does what has to be done simply because it has to be done. Which comes back around when Carlson shoots Candy's dog, and comes back around again at the end when George shoots Lenny. right?
Well, to be a man, you have to do what has to be done. That's all there is
exactly.
to it.
And I think that there are so many of those masculine tropes in this, and that's one of the things that disappointed me about the character of Curly's wife. There was so much real estate there that could have been explored, but it was not, because she was just around for attention, right? We never got a deeper look at Curly's wife. Why not? We got that deep look at Crooks. We started to get there in her death scene. Mm-hmm. So what does that say?
I'm not sure.
We're all lonely, and we're always going to be.
Yeah.
Because she was searching for that attention. She finally was. You could even see her straining against herself to make a connection with someone.
Okay. So Adrian reads the novel
Yeah.
and says loneliness.
Yeah.
And you actually enjoyed this piece, correct?
I loved it.
It's a miracle. I've suggested something that you enjoyed. I'm so proud of myself.
I would like to give Erica from Perks of Books credit for it, but we'll go with you.
Okay.
Go with you.
Oh, thank you. I
No?
take full credit for everything, don't
Yeah.
you know? The character of Lennie, and maybe I'm just stuck on characters and things like that. To give a character a special trait makes him rememberable. I love the fact that Lennie's thing is he likes to touch things. He likes to feel things. That's a very childlike approach to seeing the world.
Yeah.
The first thing a child does, he picks something up, puts it in his mouth, using those basic motor sentences to discover the world around him.
Yeah.
That sets Lennie up like a childlike character, which makes his death all the more tragic. And the little perks of he tries to keep a mouse in his pocket and he pets it until it dies.
Yeah.
It's so innocent and so just ridiculous that you can't help but like Lennie.
Is there any correlation between Lennie and his mice and Charlie Gordon and Flowers for Algernon? And Algernon?
Is there? I don't know.
They both seemed incredibly fascinated with a furry little thing.
Yes. And that's quite a stretch, and I think this came out before Flowers for Algernon.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that maybe Daniel Keyes pulled from Steinbeck, but maybe. And it's just a look towards the fragileness of life, because what's more fragile than a mouse?
Well, and also, in this novel, we get Lennie who never becomes a man.
No.
He dies still as a child.
Yes.
Charlie Gordon goes through the transformation where he becomes a man. And then he goes right back.
To being a child.
Yeah. So I never really got there with this. I think it would be interesting to read the two pieces side by side and see if there are correlations, see what could be extrapolated from that. I think it might be a video we may consider doing in the future. Or maybe just a solo video, I'm not sure. But I think that there are definitely some parallels between the two characters.
Now, let's take a look again at George, if we could, because, you want to say the manly character, I want to say the nurturing character.
Sure.
Because, although he does what has to be done, the last thing he's telling Lennie, no, said George, no, Lennie, I ain't mad. I never been mad, and I ain't now. That's the thing I want you to know. The voices came close. George raised the gun and listened to the voices. Lennie begged, let's do it now. Let's get to that place. Sure, right now. I gotta, we gotta. Pop.
Yeah.
Lennie's last thing that he remembers, the last thing in his life besides a bullet to the back of the head, is the fact that he and George are going to go get those rabbits.
It's a dream.
It's the dream. And George has the wisdom and the strength to let him have that last dream and to go out with that. He cares more about Lennie than he does himself, because that's obviously going to ruin George.
Yeah, he's
because
done.
now George is the lonely man.
Yeah. And he can't stay there.
No.
He's not on that farm anymore.
No. So where does this go from here? Because after that bullet to the back of the head, you have one page and it's over.
Yeah.
That's it.
You wanted more?
Where does George go from there?
Did you want more?
I think I did. And that's the thing, it's a beautiful ending. And I will complain about every other ending because this is the ending I want. I want that bullet to the back of the head. I want that grand just...
But you don't even like it when you get it.
That's right. I'm just pissy about everything. But where does George go from here? The suffering of George, post-novel, is a novel in its own.
Sure it is. And we touched on that little idea of the dream, and how so many people in this novel get attached to the dream.
Yes.
As soon as anyone hears it, they get sucked in.
Oh, look at Old Candy.
Yeah.
As soon as he hears it, he's in on it.
Crooks is in love with that idea. Everyone is seemingly in love with this idea that doesn't squash it, right? But there is one person on the outside of that. Did you catch him?
Who's that?
Slim.
Okay.
Slim's loneliness and his dream are attached to the same thing. Work. He's dreaming of that perfect team, right?
Okay. And maybe Slim's just, happy where he is. I think it's interesting that I wish I would have, prepared to see when this novel was actually penned. Do you have any idea off the top of your head? 37.
37. I was close. I was a year off.
In 1937, the American dream, the dream of George and Lenny, is get a little land, grow your own food, have some livestock and stuff, and just exist.
Just exist. Because you don't have to pay property tax every year.
Does that sound bad to you?
No, it doesn't.
Could you get on board with that?
I'm about to go sleep in the woods right now.
Here we are almost 100 years later. And still, if you say to someone, hey, let's just go get a little place, let's grow our own food, let's get some livestock so we can have rabbits and chickens on the weekends, we can eat well, if we want a little whiskey, we'll go sell some stuff. That's still a dream reality. People want that.
People think they want that.
People think they want that.
I live a pretty minimalistic lifestyle, don't I?
Yes.
People can come over to my apartment for 10 or 15 minutes at a time, and then they're through. Adrian's apartment breaks them. Adrian's apartment is like solitary confinement. People think they want that, but they do not.
So what does that say about me? I spend 5-6 hours here a week.
You're not really here. I don't know if you guys knew this, but we just green screened Dalton in.
Yes, I just say everything at home. We do a lot of extensive editing. So I don't know. It's a beautiful dream. It is. It's the dream of simplicity, of getting away from it all. It's that off-the-grid living that we have now, that people seem to have some beautiful ideal for, some yearning to get away from this. But I think it's achievable here. It's not achievable now.
I beg to differ.
You think so?
Who in this novel has that existence?
The owner?
No, he doesn't even own it.
Okay.
He works for a larger company.
Okay. So
he does not own that land. Even the rich guy with the nice cowboy hat and the good boots does not have that existence.
So it's unachievable is what you're saying.
The dream is unachievable.
The dream is a dream.
Squashing your loneliness is unachievable.
Okay.
Not having to kill your best friend is unachievable.
Oh, I'm not sleeping here tonight. So, anything else you'd really like to say of Mice and Men?
Do you have a recommendation?
I don't have a recommendation. This kind of stood alone for me. Do you have one?
I have
You're
one.
a little more well-read than I, and you tie things together, so.
If you liked this and you enjoyed the capital L literature and you enjoy the quick read, The Old Man and the Sea.
The Old Man and the Sea.
Could be read directly after this, and it's got that same pervasive sense of loneliness, of the man who has to work, of a dream that becomes unachieved, but there's a little sparkle at the end of The Old Man and the Sea that maybe the Steinbeck novel does not have.
Okay. We will be doing The Old Man and the Sea, correct?
Yes.
Shortly in the next few weeks, I'm going to be vacationing, so I'm going to be leaving the internet to you.
We'll see how this works.
And I'm going to be seabound reading The Old Man and the Sea, and we'll see if I come back.
You're going to throw up. That's what's going to happen.
I probably will pass out. I mean,
Watch out for sharks.
It's a thing where I just pass out. So
it's your thing.
It's my thing.
It's what you like.
So,
it's what you do.
Old Man and the Sea, I can get behind that. Hemingway. This seems very Hemingway-esque. It's the man's man.
Right.
It's dialogue heavy.
It's cut and crisp.
And the ending ends with a bang.
It sure does.
It's very Hemingway, and I can get behind that.
So what would you give this?
92 mice.
I would give this 98 drowned puppies out of
98 drowned puppies. I even lowball you when I think I'm being generous.
This is nearly a perfect novel. That's one of the things that got me about it, was that it's so good and so combed through that it is almost perfect.
So let's comment on this for a little while. Why is this banned? Why are we not letting youth who are just, coming into literature read this? I want to open that can of worms.
Open it. Go with it. Run with it.
No, I mean, what do you think?
I'm not 100% sure. I think there's a lot of things that could make this bannable, but when you read other contemporary young adult novels that are being passed through schools, there's nothing in those that is not in this.
From what I've seen, the main reasons for banning this is the historical aspect of crooks.
Okay.
Because this was written in 1937.
Right, but
That's it.
But doesn't that in itself open up the door to that discussion?
It does.
Do you want to, are we pretending that American Holocaust never happened? Is that
That's what this
getting
is.
around to?
I mean, that's what banning this would be. Similar to that.
Yeah?
It's just like sex education in public school.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't have sex. Sex is bad for you.
In fact, the one thing that we'll teach you about it is we're going to show you pictures of the nasty things it does.
Exactly.
Okay, I can see that.
I've always fought this good fight. Banning literature is ridiculous.
Of course it is.
Completely ridiculous. And to take something like this and say you can't read this because of historical implementations with crooks, and maybe the whole, gunshot at the end because, violence is bad.
Well, and if we're going to go down that road where we're banning it because of the role of crooks in the novel, what about Curly's wife?
The Curly's wife, the whore?
Yeah. So you're not going to ban it for that. You're not going to ban it for the marginalization of a woman. But the race thing. Don't we stand to learn from all of that?
I'd say so.
Okay, well, it's so disheartening that things get banned.
Yes.
By people who have no idea what's going on in an educational perspective. By people whose imaginations are so small that they have no room to talk in this.
And how can you learn something? And how can you improve upon the past if you don't educate yourself about it?
Yeah.
I mean, that seems to be cut and dry to me, but a lot of people don't agree. And let's ban literature.
Yeah.
So that's my plug for that.
Okay.
92 Mice, a 98 to Drowned Puppies. Highly suggested read, in our opinion.
Oh, very highly.
Anything else you want to say about Mr. Steinbeck?
I really wish this is something that I had read before.
I'm glad I could.
This is something that will define you as a writer and transform you as a reader, I think.
Fair enough.
I think that this is one of those novels. Here's the thing. I say literature with a capital L, but it is so brazen on the surface of this piece that no matter where you are in your education on literature with a capital L, you can glean things, I think. You can leech things off of this that you might not be able to do with other literary works.
Okay.
Like, I think a lot of people read The Great Gatsby, and they don't get anything literary from it. It's an interesting book. It's fast-paced. It goes here, it goes there. There are some poor characters. There are some great characters. But you don't really sift through it until you decide to sift through it. This, I don't think it's possible to read this and not sift through it a little bit.
Fair enough. So if you like what we have to say about Mice and Men, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Join us almost every day of the week for things among this nature. And I guess listen to us bitch about people who like to ban things and do things we don't agree with.
Well, the charm of our channel, I think, is the fact that we bitch about a great number of things.
We do. Seasoned bitchers.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So follow us on Twitter @StripCover and on Facebook @StripCoverLit.